Welcome one and all to yet another lockdown hobby time. So, still waiting for that elusive paint delivery, which means that these bad boys can't quite be completed yet. These lovely Abyssal Dwarf brand new grotesques. And in addition to that, we can't really carry on with the Night Stalkers either, because that fresh batch of juicy paints that I've ordered contains a lot of pinks and purples that are required to commence this masterpiece. So instead, I decided to just look through all the unfinished stuff to see if there's anything I feel like working on, and why not whip this guy out for a while? Surely that's got to be at least somewhat entertaining. We've got Russell and Brad in the chat already. So, this I started this a few years ago. This is my Grot Mega Tank, and it's built from the pieces of lots of other things, lots of other vehicles. It's kind of a Grot tank army that I was making at one point. And we'll see if that ever gets completed, but I can do a bit of work on this now. So I've got other tanks in this set as well. When I say sets, they're all somehow customized. It's a combination of Forge World tanks and two other companies' tanks. There is, I think one of them's Ramshackle Games, and the other one is something else. The name escapes me right now. So all the parts are mixed and matched. So on this one, for instance, where are the Forge World bits? So this big turret up here is going to be Forge World, I'm sure, and most of the actual grots on it are as well. You can see I've tried to pack plenty of character into this thing, so there's a few of them standing around on it. This guy's hanging on for dear life because the turret spinning around is nearly knocking him down. This is a turret from something else with a slightly different style of grot on it. These two are doing some field repairs with a box of bits there to the vehicle, and the tank commander is looking out rather proudly from here, but the one on the other turret isn't having quite so much luck because he's actually been squashed by the lid of the turret. So that's about as far as I got on it, and years have passed, and I decided I wasn't really interested at all in 40k for several years, and I'm still not that interested in it really, but need something to work on, so why not? And I'm going to start by whipping out the Nuln oil because there's lots of metallic bits. It seemed like the last thing I did was kind of this brass, bronzy kind of colour in various places. So we're going to wash that up real nice. Dwarven Darkness, that stinks. Was looking forward to the painting of the Hellfane and finishing up with the grotesques. Yep, that's going to be coming very soon, don't you worry. The issue I'm having at the moment is that other things can't jump ahead of the grotesques in the line because all these guys are attached to my critical lids here, and I don't want to take them off because I'm likely to mess up the paint job removing them before they get varnished. So they're just sitting there waiting, and they're holding up the line. So we're just going to paint something here that doesn't really require any kind of handle. And you can see this is actually two tanks stuck together. Underneath you can see where the milliput is there. There's two separate tank models. This one is actually significantly higher than this one, so we get this two-tiered effect. And then a big slab of milliput underneath, and there's a pin running right between this tank, the milliput, and this tank on the back. And then I've covered up the weirdness at the back with this here, so you can't really see underneath, and just all kinds of bits stuck all over it. All the other tanks in the army, shall we call it that, are smaller than this. So you can look forward to the continuation of the Abyssal Dwarves as soon as that paint delivery comes in, which should be any day. It could even be today if they're delivering late. So we'll see on that. Until then, let's just slap some paint on this sucker. Shaking up the shades in the Citadel paint holder. Okay, so we're going to slap some Nuln oil around the place here. Which brush do we want to use for this? Let's have this one. Don't need one that's particularly small here. So we've got this big barrel on the back of it here. Let's get it nulled up real nice. I would like to one day complete this army, that would be nice. But I would have to develop more of an interest in the current 40k climate. And at the moment, it's not really doing anything to grab me. I don't particularly dislike the rules. It's just not a game that I've played enough of, so I haven't interacted with the community that much, and therefore haven't got that many people nearby who want to play it. But I do have armies, obviously, as you will have seen in the past on this channel. I've had my Dark Angels for quite some time. So there's that done. Lots of other metallic little diddly bits around the place. I go into this box of spare metal here that they've got just resting on the tank while they're doing their repairs. I've got no real plan for this vehicle, I was just kind of slapping colours on as I went along. And it's Grots anyway, so what do you expect? By the way, if anyone is thirsting for red-hot sizzling wargaming content, then tonight is the glorious return of the Andy and Rem show. In 3 hours 20 minutes. So you can look forward to that. We'll see how long that glorious return lasts, how many episodes we squeeze out of it. Okay. We have Bazooka in the chat as well. Good evening. And there are some bits of silver that haven't been null oiled around here as well, I think. Some of them certainly have. I can see on the tank tracks they're much darker than, for example, this guy's face mask here. So let's viciously attack all that with null oil now. And the top of his hammer. I haven't really painted many of their clothes yet. Feels like a very long time ago I last worked on this. Probably because it was a very long time ago. Okay, this guy's got a little shell that he's just holding, looking a bit confused as to what to do with it. The idea was to have a very, very mechanised Grot army. But then because I wasn't playing any 40k, I lost all interest in it and focused on other projects for games that I was actually playing more than once a year at least. So if you tune into the Andy and Rem show tonight, you can expect such classic features to return as, what the hell is that? If you don't know what that is, then that's kind of the point of the game. You have to tune in to find out. And I'm sure we're going to be talking at length about those new GW Giants. They're the hottest, spiciest thing out there right now. And we've got this kind of grid on the back here. I think I might need to tilt the camera upwards in a second so you can actually see everything I'm doing here. This is quite a meaty model that's constantly leaving your view at the moment. So I'm going to mute the webcam microphone a second so I can move it without deafening everyone. There you go. Okay, let's pick out more details. With the wash, that is. All these nice metallic details. I don't even know if I've ever posted pictures of this model anywhere before, since I started working on it. I was probably waiting to actually finish it. I did see the Snotling Blood Bowl team as well. That looks fun. That's the kind of team that could get me interested in Blood Bowl, but I wouldn't even want to try and commit to a game like that without a guaranteed community of people I want to play it with nearby. I'd count one person as a community. I had to venture outside into the wilderness today to take something to the post office and to purchase some essential food items. Been selling quite a few of my unused models, so a lot of those went out today to their proud new owners. These are massive chunks of resin, these vehicles that are all slapped together in a haphazard manner. I'm not sure how I'm going to go about filthying this thing up at some point. But when I've put all the colours I want on it, I may just go nuts and dry brush the whole thing in black or something. Just to make it look nice and dirty. It feels like there's a lot of work left to do on this thing, but it's probably not that much really. The difficult part's already done, which was of course building it in the first place, since it certainly wasn't intended to go into life as a mega tank. Two average sized tanks slapped together. Now I had the patience to pick out all these little tiny nuts and bolts and rivets. Woven Darkness says, question, curious as to why you are pinning your grotesques. Why not just glue them to the movement tray and call it a day? Well, I like the pins for several reasons. One, I can pin them to something like this so I can paint them. You can see the pins poking through there. And two, I don't want anything to rip off the cork if it accidentally gets caught on something. You can just stick things straight onto cork, but if they ever come off, they take a big, ugly chunk of the cork with them, and it's very hard to put it back evenly, in my experience. So if they're pinned, that's very unlikely to happen. just the way I do things nowadays. I don't pin absolutely everything. But generally when cork's involved, I try to. I do quite a lot of pinning in general, really. Once you start pinning things, it's difficult to stop. Because you realise the value of it. It just creates a lot more work for yourself there. Brad says, when did I start with tabletop gaming? When I was about 10 years old or so. So one of my cousins was into miniatures and painting. I don't know how much he actually played. And he couldn't really afford miniatures much from what I remember. So he had a lot that he'd made himself or that he'd customised from other things. And I remember that I thought it was cool. And then I decided to buy some. And my brother did, and some of our friends did, and that was it. I wanted to start off with Epic Titan Legions, so that was the first thing I bought. But no one wanted to play that. Everyone just wanted to play the games 40k Warhammer Fantasy instead. So Epic Titan Legion's the first thing I had, but I never really got to do much with them. I don't think I ever played a full game of it, really, unfortunately. So that's a product I would like to have again, given the chance, but it would be very expensive to get hold of now. And I wouldn't want to just hog a copy of it when there are people out there that might actually want it with the intention of playing it. I don't know if anyone would be willing to play it nowadays. At least near me, I'm sure there are people out there that would. I'm kind of gaining this attitude towards a lot of old models now. I don't just want to hold on to things if I'm not going to use them. I want these old models to be out there in the world when someone is actually going to make use of them. That's why I've been getting rid of lots of my old stuff lately. But you do hear about people kind of just hoarding the old stuff, sometimes still in the box. Just shelves of old classic miniatures that people would enjoy if they could get their hands on them, but they can't because people are hoarding them. It's all very well if you're actually going to use it, but just sitting on it for the sake of owning it so you can look at it in its unopened state and take satisfaction from that. That's not my bag. I wonder if this video is going to get vastly more than the previous, vastly more views than the previous episodes because I'm working on something that looks orky. New and exciting. That's probably going to lure in a brand new audience. So I think I've just put null oil on every single piece of metal that is on there now that hadn't already been done. So let's wash off that brush. This isn't going to be a vastly long episode today because there is going to be an Andy and Rem show at 9 PM, which is very exciting. Now that I've figured out exactly how to do that in the current technological climate. There are different ways you can do it now. Since they got rid of Google Hangouts on air, that was the easiest way to do live broadcasts with multiple people involved with their cameras all on at the same time. But they also put kind of a stranglehold on your picture quality and kept it very low and feeble. So there were other better ways to do it before, and now that they've got rid of that, you have to kind of improvise. There's things you can install that allow you to capture the video feed from other external programs, like Skype or Discord, for example, but they're needlessly complicated to set up with the streaming software. You can't just slap them straight into YouTube, which is annoying. But there is a way, and it's not going to be too annoying to sort that out later. Bazooka says I couldn't leave things in their boxes like a museum. I could hear their voices telling me, let me out. Yeah, I just don't see the point in it. If it's something you know you're going to use, then go nuts. But if it's something, especially if it's something that's quite rare, and there are people out there that are looking for it and will use it in projects, then you're really just holding on to it for no good reason. And even if it's newer things, if you have them in the box for a while and it's a project you know you're never going to get round to, it can stare at you with its accusing eyes for months and months on end, or you can release it, let it go into the wild. If you truly love it, you'll let it go. That's the way I try and look at things now. So while that's all drying, I'm going to do a little bit of Abyssal Dwarf related work now, because I'm going to put the Mordant Earth onto this lava base for the Hellfane. I varnished this with matte varnish last night all over the lava. So now we're going to whip out some Mordant Earth, which is this Citadel Technical Paint. That was a nice bit of impressive focus there temporarily, Mr. Webcam. So we're going to do a medium layer of this all the way round on the lava. Let's give it a good shake. So I just sent off my fantasy mystery box today, which I agreed a deal with someone for, which was all the fantasy-based miniatures that I'm trying to get rid of. Just a random assortment of stuff from all kinds of different systems, some single miniatures, some completely new, some used, some partly painted, some full units of things. Some weird and wonderful stuff has gone in there, and that's on its way to the lucky recipient now. No interest in the two sci-fi boxes yet. Mystery boxes are a bit of a dangerous plunge that you're taking, though. It's from a reliable company that have done them before, like if you go for one of the Mantic crazy boxes. You have a pretty good idea what you're going to get in those. Obviously, you know their product line, and you know which kind of things they're likely to be parting with willingly. And if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, then go for it. But usually, if you can make use of even some of the models in it, then they're very cost effective. I'm sure it's good for the companies as well, just to clear out old stock in such a way, instead of just disposing of it. Steve has given a thumbs up there. Right, says, just bought a regiment of Immortal Guard. I saw the shields are quite a bit more dull than the new Black Souls. Do you have any ideas for conversion bits for newer shields? Well, I see what you're saying, because the old shields are completely blank, and the new ones are very ornate by comparison. And I'm not too concerned by that, because with mine I've just done half of the shield black and half of it orange, which breaks up the flatness of it a little bit. And if I was a bit braver, I might put some kind of symbol on it, either painting it on or with a transfer. But I'm sure there are lots of companies out there that do kind of flat evil symbols that you could put onto a shield. Failing that, if there's some kind of part that you've got that has an evil symbol on it that you think would be good to replicate on all the shields, just to spruce them up a bit, then you could use blue stuff to take a mould of that symbol and then attach that to each of your shields instead of hand painting a symbol on, actually creating it and then painting onto that if you find that easier. I wouldn't be surprised if there are companies with just collections of evil shield symbols out there with a nice variety of designs. Seems like the kind of thing there would be a market for. Almost done with this now. I do enjoy painting the bases for this Abyssal Dwarf army because it's quite an easy process. It's pretty quick. None of the steps are really complicated at all. And it looks quite effective at the end, I think. The thicker you apply this technical paint, the bigger the fractures of earth you're going to have, the bigger chunks. If you apply it very thinly, you'll get lots of tiny little bits of earth. So you can play with that and vary the thickness of the coat you're applying if you want to get an uneven look at the end. It's done. I think that might be all done now. Just a little bit I might have missed. Okay, looking good. And then when that's dry, you'll be able to see all the lava colours through it. So we'll put that to one side for a few hours. And then after a few hours, it'll be nice and lava-licious. And I'll show you a completed base in a minute, in case you've not seen them before. So it's going to look like this. This is the base for the grotesques. That's what it's going to look like when it's dry. So from that angle you can see the colours quite a bit, and then as it tilts down you don't see them quite so much because the earth crackly paint is on top and it's slightly raised, so a little bit bumpy. You don't want to mess with it too much because I'm sure some of those could come off. But you're not going to be manhandling it. You're not going to be holding it like this when you're picking it up. That would be nuts. And if you're applying it to something that is going to get manhandled, then you can put some kind of varnish or some other kind of paint over it to help seal it in place, I think. So we're going to wash off this brush and then we'll get back to this guy and see if there's anything interesting we can do. So any of you painting experts out there, what do you think this vehicle needs? It's yellow, it's got some black elements to it, it's got a red hat and jacket on its commander. What coloration or what patterns, what designs, what should we be going for on this thing? Because I've got no plan whatsoever for it, really. It's completely improvised as I went along. I'm sure there's someone out there with thoughts on this. I'm not sure why I went for yellow in the end. Quite a difficult colour to do well. Bazooka says red flames. That sounds quite advanced for my liking. A Grot mega tank. Some kind of red on there, maybe. But where? Red checks. Again, that sounds difficult. Steve says skull and crossbones. All these ideas, as wonderful as they are, they all sound like they would take work and precision. I was thinking more like, here's a panel, let's just do that in a particular colour. And there's another panel, let's do that in another colour. You know, easy stuff. So I suppose I could do that in red. Brad says, are you going for bad moons? I'm not going for anything in particular. Red rows of triangles, teeth. The triangles that are on here, for example, on this turret, are currently in bronzy, brassy kind of colour. And those are the only ones that are on it. But I could, of course, paint something onto it. What do we think to doing this square here on either side in red, and then putting something on that? Like, I don't know, jagged teeth on there or something onto the red. Something like that. Bazooka aims for excellence. Yes, I'm sure you do. Let's get the red out. We don't want too fine a brush for this task. I'm waiting for a darker red than this to arrive for my grotesques. And that's the main paint I'm desperate to arrive right now, is that one. Because it's holding me up big time. I'm going to start slapping some red on here. Very bright, this red. And I'll paint something else over this afterwards, like I said. Maybe some teeth, someone suggested. I think that could look good. This is more one of those projects where I just enjoyed building it and didn't really have a specific idea in mind for the paint job. Just fun to make wacky and wonderful things sometimes, isn't it? If I was working in a miniature production line in a studio, getting them from unfinished to completely finished, I would like to be in the assembly section, I think. Not the clipping things off the sprue section, just the actual assembly. What's everyone else working on today, if they're working on anything at all? Brad thinks maybe black teeth, and I think I could go for that. Paint some black teeth onto these red panels. I think that would look quite stylish by Orc standards, and even by Grot standards. I know you can't see exactly where I'm painting right now. That's because I've got the camera on the wrong side to capture that, just because it's convenient for me to put it there. I ain't changing for no one, damn it. Okay, that side done. Now I'm going to paint the other side. Yeah. Steve's painting on some more Kings of War orcs by the sound of it. One of these days I'm going to do a Kings of War orc army, just because I do have one in a box, and I don't believe in just holding on to things in boxes anymore. I'm not sure about doing them as Abyssal Dwarf slave orcs. That was the original plan, but I'm not that interested in having slave orcs. I don't think the theme of the army is really helped by them. Just visually. The theme of them enslaving other races seems to fit their character. But just visually on the table, I'm not that keen on the orc models next to the Abyssal Dwarves. I'm more likely probably to turn them into a full-on orc army at some point. Most likely after the Night Stalkers, unless something else grabs me by then. Which is entirely possible, and if it gets delayed any too much further than that, then I'll probably just part with it, in line with my new philosophy. There's no plan for it. Get rid of it. As long as it's to someone who can make use of it. That's the ideal situation. And if it's not, if you're just selling it on eBay and you have no idea who's going to be buying it, that's alright if it's something you just need to get out of your house. Because its very presence is driving you to insanity, which has been the case with some models for me in the past. Particularly the Caradron Overlords. I had to get rid of those. Kept all the ones I painted. But all the ones that were just sitting in boxes when I bought a full army, they had to go. And because some of the stuff I had, I'd spent quite a bit of money building up the weapons on certain weapon combinations on one of the units, and then sold off the spare weapons from the sprue. And then the squad that had all those weapons, I didn't finish painting it, but the fact that it was armed the way it was made it quite desirable at that time, which meant that I got a really good price for it. And then, about 2 weeks later, they changed the rules so you couldn't arm all of the members of the squad with the same weapon anymore. So somebody wasted a lot of money on that eBay purchase. I think it was £140 for one unit of Grundstock Thunderers. One unit of 10 armed with ether cannons. Some crazy person wanted to pay that for them. And because of that, pretty much, and selling the extra weapons that came on the sprue on eBay as well, the Caradron Overlords, even though I've kept 3 squads and one of the characters that I painted, even though I'm keeping those, I was actually in profit when I finished on that army because of that. Which is a rare thing in this hobby. I wouldn't consider it a success if I'd also had to sell the Arcanauts that I finished, though, because obviously so much time went into them. Alfonso says, nice Grot Megatank. Needs some rust streaks, maybe. Yeah, it needs something to filthy it up a bit. I'm thinking when I've finished all the paintwork on it, I'll start thinking about adding all the dirt and rust to it. I do have the technical paints for that. Is it Typhus Corrosion and Riser Rust, the two paints? I think that's what they're called. And in combination, they're quite tasty. I think there's a bit of super glue or something jammed in here. There we go. Oh no, it's still there. Something stuck in there. Okay, I think that got it. Yes, I'm sure people can tell that it's supposed to be a Grot Megatank just by looking at it. Even though, of course, it is two smaller tanks crudely put together. And anyone who's asking about why certain people who are trying to comment on this are muted or blocked from the channel, it's usually because they've either been horrific spammers on the channel or sent abusive messages or something like that, or they've got very, let's be polite and say, controversial or colourful social media presence, which I was made aware of. That's usually what it is. So there's quite a few people that fall into that category. So when I'm watching live shows on other people's channel, it's just like every other person commenting, oh yeah, that person's blocked from my channel, yeah. Oh, there's another one. This is awkward. There was, we want to get vaguely controversial for a moment. There's at least a couple of people on YouTube with channels in this community, I don't know if they're still active, who I was going to be doing some kind of collaborative efforts with. And then I was made aware of certain things that they'd put out there into the world via their social media. And at that point, they weren't the kind of people I wanted to associate with anymore. But that's usually what it is. Some people who were really friendly commenting on this channel for years, suddenly one day they would just start spamming endlessly and being really abusive for no real obvious reason. I think of at least two people off the top of my head that was the case with. Okay, so it's time for some black teeth then, I think. Let's whip out the black. So, how do we want to do this? I could just kind of crudely black zigzag down there. I could then possibly highlight on one side with a grey. So it would look a bit less crude, but it would look nice. Let's start off with the black zigzag motif anyway. So I'm going to try and get this to an hour this episode, because I've got stuff to prepare for later as well with the Andy and Rem show, which is in less than 3 hours. Assuming that Mr. Remington is on time, which is always a bit up in the air. Okay, let's start the zigzag effect. Do we want it to be even? I'm not convinced it should be even, because they're grots, and it will be something that they've painted on themselves. So let's not worry about it being too even here. I'm just going to do the outline of it first. And then I'm going to fill it in. And if I make a little mistake on the outline, I'll just extend the spike a bit. Better to start off with the spikes too small and then have to extend them, than make them too big and then have to actually fix over black, which is annoying. So that's how we're looking at the moment. It is fun working on something where I'm not feeling any pressure for it to be good as well, because it's not an army that I'm really invested in or care about at this stage. So I can just kind of go nuts with it. And then I'll fill in all this area here. And I think because it is just going to be flat black otherwise, I will do some kind of highlighting on it. Okay, I'm just going to make them look very jagged here, even though they're grots. I think they can still draw kind of a straight line. Okay, so there's one side. It's weird actually, the lighting on here makes it look like I've done some kind of red mountain effect there. It's highlighted it for me, the lights. It doesn't look like that in real life, trust me. But I actually do like how that looks, and it tempts me to actually make that into a theme for this army. If I do kind of an orange highlight on the top of the red triangles, it looks like mountain peaks with a black sky. I think that would actually be quite cool, but trust me, it looks nothing like that to the naked eye here. But when I hold it in the light like that, it actually looks really cool. I could even go crazy and do some stars on the black sky as well. That might be fun. Okay, let's do similar on the other side, but it's not going to look exactly the same because they're grots. I'm not a freehand kind of guy. I don't really have any freehand art skills whatsoever. So we'll see whether this comes out nice. Okay, there's that side. I'm going to extend these triangles a bit, I think. But again, starting off small because this is the darker colour. So if you start off less than you need, you can always add more later. It's harder to go back and fix by painting red over black though, than it is by adding more black. Weird when you have an accidental breakthrough like that with colours. I had no intention of this being a red mountain range, but now I've got my heart set on it. extend this one a bit. So there's the other side. I suppose these vehicles might actually be the perfect platform to practice some kind of freehand work. It's not something I've ever even attempted. Just because I know it's not really in my wheelhouse, as the kids might say these days. Let me know if kids don't say wheelhouse anymore, because I need to update the phrases I'm using to try and sound hip. Okay, that'll do. So there's that side. And the lighting is making it look way better than it actually is again. Actually, no, I want this one to look a bit more jagged. So, one side, other side. Looking cool. Now, here's the question. On the tops, it's currently red. Do I paint that black on the top now? Or do I leave it red? That's something for the audience to ponder there. So where else could I use this look? On these panels on the turret, I've started off with black. So maybe I could go in there and try and paint some red triangles on, which is annoying painting red over black, but I've already started with the black there. So I think that might be a nice theme to continue. So as soon as the audience has decided whether I should paint the tops of these panels red or black, then I'll move on to that bit. So if it's going to be black, I'll want to use that while it's still wet. Steve says leave red. Definitely an option. So we'll assume we're going to leave that red for now. And I'll get the red out once again, so we can start working on kind of reverse triangles on the turret panels. So this will be a fun little thing to work on if my paints are going to take much longer. So let's see if I can actually do this the other way around. It probably will take more than one coat to do these. Okay, there's one on that panel. Can't really fit any more in there. I'm not really concerned about the paint being the optimal thickness, because this is a Grot vehicle, so any kind of messiness on their painting, if anything, it just makes it more in keeping with their character. I have trouble painting things to look dirty, or what's the best way to describe it? Weathering and things like that. I often struggle with that because I like things to look neat and tidy. Most of my painting is just very clean. So painting anything that's supposed to be imperfect can be a challenge. Okay, on to the other panels. I don't know if there's an existing like clan of grots that have any kind of red mountain motif going on with them. If there is, I'm sure someone in the chat will know. But I personally have no idea. If there isn't, then it might be quite a cool one. And I think just with that, we've improved the look of this vehicle massively already. Yay. Do grots even have their own clans? Is that a widespread thing? I know there was rebel grots in Gorkamorka, but do you have full-on grot armies in the 40k universe? I'm sure I've seen people paint full-on grot armies, but I'd be interested to know whether that's something that's actually represented in the fluff as well. I thought this guy was starting to wobble a bit then, but it's actually because he's standing on this rickety little platform between the two bits of the tank. Oh, we've got another bit of turret panel around here as well that I've just spotted. It's one of those moments where you've got no real plan and then you paint something and it just happens to look kind of good. And then that inspires you to then get it finished. So this is something I could see myself completing now. At least this model, maybe the rest of them. It's obviously not at the front of the queue right now. Other things that need to be worked on as well. But it would be a nice little side project to have there while other things are drying, for example. So, and if I hadn't held it up to the camera and seen that weird highlighting effect that it's given the red, which is not actually there in real life, then I wouldn't have even thought of it as a mountain range. But as soon as I saw that, I thought, yeah, that looks cool. So I could highlight those. I could put a kind of lighter bit at the top. And I think that would look pretty damn snazzy. I'm not sure where else on the vehicle I'd be able to put this. What do we think? Do we think they'd reserve it for specific panels like that? Or do you think maybe the dozer blade on the front? I think that would be a good spot for it. Especially because the enemy would be able to see it coming right for them. And it actually gives me a nice theme for the actual grots themselves now as well, this colour motif. Okay, going to wash off this brush now. I think we're going to be pretty much finished there for the moment, unless someone says that I should do the front blade and I'll apply the red there while it's still wet. And then after that, it'll be time to depart. But there is the Andean Rem show coming up in 2.5 hours. Just about to say the Dozer Blade. So if Bazooka thinks the Dozer Blade should be done, I think we should do it, because he is a top-notch modeler and painter. So I'll just do the whole area in red. I don't want to mess up these little bullet holes I've got here, though. Had I known I was going to do this design, I could have done the bullet holes afterwards, but this is very much off the cuff. I'm trying to think of other models where I was kind of just meandering along painting it, and then suddenly there was a breakthrough accidental moment where something looked cool and it inspired me to go and finish it. It's definitely happened before. Trying not to hit any of the little silver bits, since I've already done those. And silver, obviously. Some of the other vehicles I've made look pretty cool as well, with the combinations of parts from different companies, so each one is totally unique. There'll be probably no one else in the world with any tanks that look exactly like the ones I've got. In particular this one, I'm pretty sure. Even the concept for this tank, the two specific ones that are stuck together, I don't think has been done. I'd be very surprised if it has. Okay, we're getting close here, almost finished with the red, I think. Just a few more bits here and there. So there was no sign of my paint delivery while I've been doing this stream. So I'm hoping it's going to come tomorrow. If it doesn't come this week, I ordered it from Mantic, and it was marked as dispatched on Thursday, which tells me that it should be here by now. But I'll give it a few more days, and then at that point I'll harass them and ask whether they actually just marked it as dispatched and then left it by the front door and forgot about it. But it's more likely to be an issue with the postal service, though. I'm not sure whether it's Royal Mail or one of the other parcel delivery services. But I would imagine they're all kind of overworked at the moment, since everyone is trying to stay indoors when possible, so people will be ordering lots of stuff. And some of their staff are probably ill or just isolating themselves and unable to work. So I do have sympathy. But I want my damn paints. Not as much as those people I've seen on the news in America protesting because they can't get a haircut. I think that's taking it a little too far. Almost fully readied this up. Making sure I've hit every little angle here. And if my paints don't arrive tomorrow, you'll be able to see me continue with this vehicle, hopefully guided again by the expert advice of the audience. Okay, there's the red. So the black can be applied on there later. Steve says he spoke to the post office lady today and she said parcel-wise it's busier than Christmas. I'm not surprised. Not only are people ordering in essentials because they can't go out and get them themselves, but people are also bored and want to order things that they can occupy themselves with, and probably ordering things that they can perform tasks with that they would have previously gone out for. Maybe if they like fried food but they don't have a fryer at home, maybe they've ordered something like that. There are lots of different reasons that this kind of thing leads to a surge in postal work. Okay. Looking good. Already it's got a lot more character than it did have. And looking quite tasty at the moment, if I do say so myself. So we're going to leave this here, and there you go. I'm going to wrap this one up, and in 2 hours 15 minutes I'll be back with the Andy and Rem show for a live, red hot, sizzling discussion, mostly Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Fantasy related, because that's the name of the game. But we'll also touch on anything else that's interesting. There's a couple of other miniature companies with their releases that came to my attention lately that I want to look at as well. You also look forward to What the Hell Is That? The #1 wargaming related mini quiz that inspired an entire legion of Games Workshop social media posts, for the record, because we were doing it before them, before they brought in the, what do they call it? They'll have a picture zoomed in on a tiny detail on a miniature, and they call it "What am I looking at?" or something like that, or "What is this?" Something that's not quite as catchy as "What the hell is that?", which is what we originally called it. And they blatantly stole our idea and didn't credit us in any way. But anyway, all that and more is going to be back at 9 PM tonight. So look forward to that excitement. For now, don't forget to check out all the links in the description, Facebook group, Twitter and all that nonsense, all the various fundraising sources down there to throw all your money at me for some reason. And with that, until later, all that remains to be said is good night out there. Whatever you are, even if you're a Grot Megatank.